G'day guys, ZiggyD here. I wanted to bring you a quick dramatic sounding, because there's a storm in the background, build guide for the upcoming Path of Exile Patch 2.1. Looks like the Arc meta is back on the menu, boys! Check out this. In addition to having 20% higher damage at level 20, Arc is also now going to be chaining 2 times more at level 20 as well. Up to 7 times chaining on Arc now. Glorious. So when I was looking at this, I was like, well, looks like I know what is going to be the best kind of like beginner's budget Faceroll build for the new upcoming patch. And, you know, sure, I got a whole bunch of new skills, but I know some of you guys just want a strong, solid, easy to get into build to play in hardcore or softcore. This is going to work great in both. I don't know if you guys can hear that thunderstorm, it's like super epic. So, let's run through what I've got set up for this. This is going to be pretty sweet, guys. I mean, obviously we can't test this yet because the new patch isn't out and things are changing, but Arc is good at the moment without these buffs. People playing it, there was recently a person who got 100 with it, apparently, I hear. I've played plenty of Arc builds in the past, and I have enough familiarity with Arc and these style of builds to be able to know that this is just gonna work. It's just gonna work, man. It's just gonna work. So, we're gonna be playing an Iron Will Tanky Arc Templar, using the new support gem, Controlled Destruction. If I show this one to you guys just here. This new beastly support gem here reduces critical strike chance, playing non-crit Arc, that's not really a drawback, and gives us 25% more spell damage in addition to a whole bunch more spell damage as well for the leveling and for the quality, and possibly for the leveling. It probably has some other spell damage bonus or maybe more spell damage as it levels too. So pretty freaking nice support gem for a non-crit Arc build, and that just meshes so well with the idea of doing a tanky Iron Will Arc Templar. So for you guys who are fairly new to Path of Exile, Iron Will is a support gem that allows you to convert the bonuses from strength that usually apply to physical damage attacks, so like when you chop things with a sword, and instead applies it to spell damage, to spells. So you can become like, you can channel your beefy muscles into casting your spells more potently. And what that allows you to do is spend a whole lot of time here on the left and middle section of the tree, where you can get a lot of life and tankiness for your character. There's a lot of life, armor, endurance charges, all those sorts of good things that allow you to construct a very budget-friendly, a very solid and tough character. It's going to work very well in hardcore, and it's going to work great for newer players in a new league with potentially new dangerous enemies to encounter early on. So let's go through kind of what we're going to be using here. So this will be using the Arc gem. You can level with Arc, you can level with Flame Totem, and you can level with Searing Bond. In fact, you can level with all 3 at the same time. You can now use Searing Bond with Flame Totem, and you can also chuck both of those down and then finish things off with Arc. So that's pretty much going to be your leveling setup. You could level the whole way with Arc, basically, but Flame Totem Searing Bond will speed it up and will work perfectly for this. Your basic 5-link is going to be Arc with Controlled Destruction over here on the left-hand side, which reduces that critical chance, not an issue, and it gives us a big spell damage multiplier, very nice stuff. Then of course Iron Will, which gives us increased spell damage by default on the gem, and then a bunch of extra increased spell damage without any strength on gear, and you will get strength on gear in a build like this because it gives you both life and damage. Without any strength on gear, that's about 100% increased spell damage from that support gem, so that can quite feasibly double with strength on gear as well, more than double. So pretty nice stuff there. Then of course Echo, which is your big cast speed boost. Arc just works so nicely with Echo. Most spells work nicely with Echo. Not much to say there. And because this is a pure lightning skill, lightning penetration is essential. It'll help you deal a lot more damage to those single target enemies. Now we are going to be taking advantage of some of the new mechanics in this build as well. We're going to be using Blasphemy, which is another one of the new support gems over here. Supported curses cast as auras instead, so they reserve 25% of your mana and are instead cast as an aura around your characters. Any enemy that moves into aura range will be cursed with the supported curse. Some pretty nice stuff you can do with this, and I think it's going to work really nicely for this sort of solid build that tends to get a bit closer to enemies a lot of the time as well. So What we'll be doing with that is, this is what I highly suggest, and you can tinker around with this exact curse setup, but I highly suggest putting Warlord's Mark on Blasphemy. Now, Warlord's Mark gives you life and mana leech, and this means that this will be up on nearly all enemies that you're attacking all of the time. So this will give you excellent survivability and also take care of any of your mana sustain issues very efficiently. Don't need to spec in expensive mana regen gear or anything like that. That's going to do that job for you very nicely. Then you can put something like Enfeeble and cast when damage taken, so when you do get hit, that'll auto curse on enemies. Now, this build will be using Whispers of Doom, which allows enemies to have up to 2 curses at any one time. So this means that any enemies near you that have attacked you will be cursed with both Warlord's Mark, so you'll be leeching off them, and Enfeeble, which reduces their damage. And then for single targets and other enemies that you want to kill a little quicker before they attack you, you can self-curse them with Conductivity, which reduces their lightning resistance and allows you to shock them more easily. Aura is pretty simple, Wrath, and then your Aurified Curse. Eventually, I've done the math on this, you can see down the bottom here, and this is without factoring in Righteous Decree. You will be able to run Herald of Thunder as well if you pick up these Sovereignty, the rest of this Sovereignty cluster just here. So jump cut forwards 10 minutes because all of a sudden, massive hailstorm, super loud. Hopefully it's a little quieter now, now that's settled down. Good job, nature. Good job. So, some of you guys may have noticed this note here. This is not actually an accident. You will pick this up without even getting the rest of the Serenity cluster. Usually this is just a wasted point. But when you're using Aurified Curses, the radius of your curse is actually pretty damn important, unless you're like playing like a Cyclone or something. This is a 12% increased radius of your curse, essentially, which is means that you're going to be cursing enemies that are much further away from you, which is nice, because Arc does have a decent range on it. So having that up on more enemies will mean more leech, or if you choose to aurify one of the other curses, then more whatever effect you're getting there. So, pretty nice stuff. Not an accident. In terms of other support skills, you're going to use things like Rallying Cry. This will help with early game, any sort of mana issues that may crop up. I highly doubt there's really going to be any, but it also gives a boost in damage. And you can opt instead, if you want to be even tankier, to use Enduring Cry. You will get endurance charges from the Warlord's Mark curse. Getting kills will generate charges, and you'll most of the time have 3 charges up as you're clearing pretty quickly. But if you do want to spec the other 2 endurance charges here and here, then that will allow you to get to a maximum of 5 or potentially 6 if you pick up one from the Bandit quest, and using Enduring Cry at that point will be quite nice and will give you a lot of extra defense. And then finally, like any good Arc build, you're going to be using Vile Stormcall to put out a bunch of extra damage on occasion, especially on things like bosses and tough rare enemies. So, now let's run through the passive tree. I'll give you guys a bit of an idea of the potential routing you can take and why we've picked up some of the things we have. So the first thing you'll probably notice on the left-hand side here is that, yes, we do have 200% life. This build is fairly tanky, and you can potentially get more than that in addition to getting endurance charges. So, very, very solid. Just getting a decent amount of life and strength on gear is going to give you a very, very big life pool. Getting something like 6, 7, or even 8k life is not out of the question. The good news about the routing for the tree is that you pretty much can't screw this up. Basically, it doesn't matter which direction you go in, none of these things are essential for you to get at any particular point in time. There is no particular keystones that you need to get. All of the stuff is good, and there's not really anything that you can do wrong, so you can kind of pick up things exactly as you need. Most likely what you'll do is you'll pick up everything in the Templar tree, and then head up to the witch section of the tree. Now, this sort of traveling here gives you a whole bunch of intelligence, which will just make sure that you have enough intelligence to keep leveling your spells as you're leveling in the earlier game, and then by the time you've done that, you'll have enough intelligence for the rest of the game, and you can start to fill out everything else you like. So, pretty simple stuff. So I'll go through some of the notable or slightly unusual things in the tree. Righteous Decree is probably not going to be mandatory, but is a nice, easy way to get some solid mana cost reduction, which will just help with early game leveling with Arc, so making sure that you're not running out of mana at all. Characters are getting 6 mana per level now instead of 4 in this new patch, so everyone's going to have a lot more mana. Basically, this just here, and eventually once you aurify your Warlord's Mark, is going to cover your mana problems. If you have 25% unreserved, and then potentially by the time you're like level 75 or 80 or something like that, and if you decide to pick up Sovereignty, then even just having 14% unreserved mana is going to be good enough to continuously cast Arc without any pause. We've already mentioned Whispers of Doom for that dual cursing potential with the new Aurify Curse. mechanic in the game, dual cursing is nicer than ever, so very nice to be able to pick that up, and it's on the way to some other nice things that we can get as well. So since we're kind of already up in this area, we do indeed pick up Herald of Thunder, which has lightning penetration, giving us a lot more damage, and Breath of Lightning, as this is a non-crit build and you'll be critting very infrequently, having the extra 5 and 5% chance to shock there, in addition to the 5% chance to shock here, and the 5% chance to shock here gives you 20% chance to shock. You're going to be shocking enemies pretty much all of the time as you're attacking them. 20% is enough on Arc to keep up a pretty damn good shock uptime. And obviously we grab the life and the jewel sockets. You'll notice we have most of the 2-point jewel sockets. We have all of the 2-point jewel sockets that you can get across the tree, routing efficiently for strength as well, wherever possible. But getting those jewel sockets, you're going to focus on just getting life, strength, any sort of spell damage, very, very basic stuff. You can just go with whatever budget jewels you can possibly roll. This cluster in here further reduces the cost of Arc, so if you were, not really having any mana problems to begin with, this is going to take away any sort of need for a mana flask by the time you get this as well. Reduce mana cost of skills, in addition to being a decent life cluster as well, so pretty nice stuff there. We do, because we're getting the Scion Life Wheel to get us to that sweet 200% life total, we do get the Skittering Runes cluster. This gives 20% increased effective curses there, which does increase the leech that you get from Warlord's Mark, increases the potency of Enfeeble, and increases the damage you deal with Conductivity. And however you decide to set up your curses, whether you decide to aurify a different curse instead of Warlord's Mark, this is going to be very, very potent increase, and that stacks with a little bit of curse effectiveness that we have in this wheel just here as well. And that's pretty much it. Everything else on the tree is basically just life, but because we're, it looks like we don't really have all that much damage. We have a nice damage cluster here, bit of damage in the Templar, bit of damage here, but it doesn't really look like that much, right? But you have to remember that in a build like this, in an Iron Wheel build, all of this traveling that we do for life kind of doubles up for us. It gives us more life. So we're getting all these sweet life nodes along the edge here, right? Basically, we're doing all this, we're just getting life, life, and life over here, but all this strength ends up being damage for us as well as giving us more life because of that Iron Will support gem. So this sort of Arc build was already pretty solid. It's going to be much better endgame now with that 20% increase in damage, and it's going to have much better clear speed finally as well, because Arc always had a bit of a cap on clear speed because of the limit to the number of enemies that you'd be hitting with any one cast. Now that it changed 7 times, that's going to be a dramatic increase in clear speed at no damage penalty either. You don't need to run the chain support gem. So super simple. Easy to plan, easy to build, very budget. You don't need any specific gear for this. You're just going to be wearing armor ES gear for your chest, and then pretty much just armor gear or whatever you need for your colors. Try and prioritize armor ES gear where possible, which will give you the easiest access to your colors. Trying to get as much life and strength on gear, and just get a wand with some cast speed, or even a scepter with some cast speed and spell damage and elemental damage or lightning damage. It's also super easy to play too. This sort of Arc is just so friendly to newer players, or to anyone who wants to kind of focus more on paying attention to the enemies and learning that aspect of the game, because basically all you do is you use something like Lightning Warp to move around, or you just run around yourself, and you basically just hold the button down until everything's dead. You don't need to aim, you basically don't really need to pay too much attention to anything apart from, whether the enemies are currently attacking you, and that's about it. So guys, a pretty basic guide, but hopefully it helps you guys out who have been struggling with picking a build for the upcoming patch. Arc is going to be very strong. I think once the hype dies down for some of the new skills, we're going to see a lot of people playing Arc, and if there's any 1 week's races or anything like that, we're going to see a lot of Arc action in there as well. Anyway guys, that's it for now. I'm ZiggyD, and thanks for watching.